swap, so definitely wouldn't be surprised to see an IO here, even if the Sven is more common. And Vengeful Spirit, yes, you think about the Drow, but there are other options such as Medusa, but we are going to see the Sven, and immediately the Viper to counter. Having a very clear idea of what they wanted to do in that case. And honestly, I quite like the Viper in general as just a solid laning hero. And someone who has the potential for a number of item builds. He's very flexible in that sense. Usually is played off lane or mid, there's not too much flexibility there. But you can either go for a very damage heavy build, get a Dragon Lance, try and scale into late game with your talents, or we often just see a full on utility build, ATOS to begin with, maybe a Spirit Vessel, get into a pipe, get into a mech even. Drow Ranger ban is of course a given here for Team Void. And we've seen the Drow Ranger plus the Viper and the Vengeful Spirit, exactly this trio of heroes every now and then. And it makes it very hard for you to run down and focus onto one of them, because you've got the swap and you have another ranged hero constantly attacking you. But I do maintain a Medusa could be very strong here. You attack the IO as well as the Sven at the same time, and it's having that triangle of death. Execration taking out the Bloodseeker. The Bloodseeker is a very nice setup for a relocate gank. But it's also, I suppose, one of those counters to Vengeful Spirit in theory, because the swap means that you take damage, but I do think in most cases it is worth a Vengeful Spirit swapping or Ruptured. Anyway, we're not going to see that interaction here. Bat Rider being banned out, that's another relocate setup type hero. There are quite a few of them still left in the pool. I think Beastmaster is the most obvious one. But even something like a Legion Commander could be used here. Although, you know, again, I don't think the LC is going to be the pick because it's not great against the Venge. And it's not great against the Viper. Rubik as the pickup. That's interesting against the Sven. Honestly, not particularly good spells to steal at the moment. But it does mean you can do things like pick up the Sven the second he relocates in and drop him on his IO. Leshrac in play does give the Rubik some very nice spells to steal, and I think you're going to be stealing spells from Leshrac constantly here. Okay, well, interesting that they pick for that Rubik to steal, but we also do have
Lolo.
a hero who does need a bit of setup.
Dota Live, Dota Live. Artisan Dota League. Execration po versus Team Void.
Very good here.
Meme.
As for Execration, looking for a damage source that can actually go pair for the Sven, pair for the Leshrac. Warlord is still in the pool. I think that can be nice. Back fight game. Sven is one of the strongest one-on-one heroes.
Step.
And we often do see Spectre as a counter to Leshrac, but no, it's going to be the anti-mage here. That's obviously very nice against the Leshrac, but you actually don't have a good matchup into the Sven. Playing the anti-mage in this, I guess, head-to-head, you've got the spell shield. And that's very good at reflecting the Sven's stun, so you got that going for you, but just when it comes to the right clicks, the Sven does greatly out DPS's the anti-mage. And that's all the more true when you've got the IO behind you. It is indeed going to be the Legion Commander option. And that's mostly because they've got the counter to the AM there. A lot of the other obvious choices, such as the Beastmaster, just don't do well against the Anti-Mage. But in the case of the LC, even if the AM uses his spell shield, the spell gets cast. The duel gets cast anyway. And so while it's maybe not ideal against the Venge and the Viper, it is still a very good setup for the relocate gank in, and our AM is going to have to be so careful. Probably looking for another support here. Team Void, it's entirely possible that they run the Leshrac as a support, but maybe because you see the Rubik, because you see the AM, you want to be running it as support instead. Execration definitely looking for a mid laner that can hold their own, because you're going to be using a lot of resources to protect the anti-mage eventual spirit swap. And as it stands, Execration, they're kind of low on AoE stuns. They've got a couple of single target stuns, but really not that much when it comes to proper team fights. As it stands, Team Void really have a fairly open set of heroes for them. They do have a lot of options. Execration, I think it makes a lot of sense for them to go for something like the Invoker. You can stall out the Legion Commander with the Tornado, you can stall out the Sven and the IO, and you have a pretty good shot at interrupting the relocate there. Other good heroes for that include the Zeus, and I don't mind the Zeus in principle. I think that can be nice for kind of burst down an IO at the start of a fight. Or just securing a duel in against the Legion Commander if he thinks they're getting the jump. If you have the numbers, it's very hard for the LC to go in. But that would mean that you're looking at a very flimsy lineup, and your Viper is going to have to build the full tank and utility, which again is not terrible. Team Void. What do they go for here? Earth Spirit I think could be nice, just a bit of extra catch. Maybe a support Tiny as well. But they go with the Doom, so showing the Doom here, that does imply that it's going to be a Leshrac support. But at the same time, they've gone and picked the Doom into an Anti-Mage, and a lot of teams actually like picking the Anti-Mage into the Doom because they think they can reflect the Doom with a Spell Shield. Well, it's not particularly hard to do. The Doom has a fairly long cast time, but if it's on cooldown, or if you're already stunned, or if you're just not paying enough attention, for the AM, it's one of the worst things to happen to you. No surprises there. It is going to be the Invoker here from Execration. That pick makes a lot of sense. Pretty good counter against Legion Commander in a great many situations. And actually, the LC has to be very careful when it comes to going for these duels. Because if you get the duel onto the Anti-Mage with Vipers there, he drops the Nether Toxin, you don't get Moment of Courage. And then the Invoker comes in with a Sunstrike. It's all just not a very good situation. So the duel, the LC does need to relocate to pair up, provide that extra guarantee. Now I fully expect this to be a Quaswex Invoker. I think going for an Exhort Invoker is extremely greedy. You also don't have any particularly good setup. Like if you have a Legion Commander on your team, and you go for a duel and then you have Sunstrike, okay, fine. But that is not the case right now. It is going to be Kuroko playing the Doom, so support Leshrac on the field. Support Leshrac is a bit strange. You tend to max out the Diabolic Edict, which makes it very good for trading in lane. And it also does make it very good at taking towers, of course. And that's going to be important against the AM, being able to pressure down towers early. Legion Commander in the offlane. Now it's an interesting one playing into the Anti-Mage. You run out of mana extremely quickly. Kind of quite obvious against the AM there. But at the same time, once you run out of mana, it means the Anti-Mage can't do that much damage to you. And you've got the Moments of Courage, you can trade back HP quite effectively. And so it's kind of a matter of being able to drop your mana to a safe level. And maybe get a Soul Ring if you really need spells later on. That's an interesting matchup. Io plus Sven is quite strong, but I actually would prefer the Sven going with the Leshrac in this lane because you have the stun set up into the Split Earth. And pairing up an Io with the regen, that's going to be very hard to deal with. If you get that Split Earth set up here, Rune going to be taken. It's 3 versus 3, but already DMG is extremely low. Stun comes out, means that Disco Pony has to chase down this kill himself. Fairy Fire coming out, DMG able to dodge that one. Can he get the deny to Roshan? He's trying to juke his way, but he won't be successful. Now they've got the stun out onto BDZ, cannot chain it into a Split Earth this time around, but that is still a lot of HP gone. We'll see who they decide to keep up top. Yeah, that is indeed going to be the expected setup, so Ray comes down into the bottom lane, going to be buffing up the Legion Commander, and you are not going to have a good time as the AM here. You can burn all of his mana, fine, that's not a problem. Moment of Courage, great spell. TP down from the Vengeful Spirit, I still think is not going to be enough. Now in the top lane, Viper with Nether Toxin at level 1 can just push out the wave, but the Sven with the Cleave and just being a high armor, high damage hero is actually pretty good at last hitting on their tower. So the Nether Toxin pushes the wave in, that's fine. Leshrac has to be a bit careful with his positioning. If he gets pulled out by a lift, that would be pretty bad. Down bottom lane, they are able to take down the Io, so that's not what I expected. GUI here, very close fight against Joe. You won't get the Moment of Courage proc, but he's still going to try and chase for this kill. The regen from the Tango, it's enough for AM. He can go back in with the blink. Is he going to risk it? He's thinking about it, but he will cancel the blink again. And meanwhile, top lane, man, missing all these kills. Both off lane supports going down. And they are able to dive onto the Legion Commander. Action happening everywhere, and I don't have enough eyes to spot it out. That's a very good start for Anti-Mage, contrary to my expectations. He's going to be able to get up to an early ring of health, and that's really going to help him sustain in this lane. And there's Sven 2 points in the stun, very easy setup into the split earth. No lift on the Rubik to try and interrupt that. They've got the Diabolic Edict running. Finally the lift coming out just hitting level 2, but Bryant, he might just be able to get this kill anyway. DMG drops Nether Toxin, everyone's going to be taking a lot of damage for it. Split earth not connecting, that's fine, Sven gets the final hit. So both our safe laners here are actually doing pretty good. That's 2 kills on the AM, 2 kills on the Sven. We'll see who that ends up favoring. Sven is a hero who can snowball through farm, get into jungle very early with a nice Mask of Madness. And he can explode in farm, but of course the anti-mage getting an early battle free, that's quite similar. Generally speaking though, Sven comes online faster than the anti-mage, and personally I still think that the Sven beats the anti-mage in a heads-up fight. Now of course when you got the Viper, it's very hard to truly lose lane. Even if you die a couple of times. Another Toxin just pushes out the wave, it's very obnoxious. And later on, you're just a little tankier due to your corrosive skin. That's a decent matchup all around. It's more of the fact that the Sven's just getting more out of this lane than he's supposed to. Are going to be trying once again for the stun setup. The lift this time from the Rubik will interrupt that. And now Leshrac taking a lot of damage there. Does have a Fairy Fire, is healing up. He will not be able to land the stun. In fact, that might have just killed him because he broke trees, which gave the enemy vision of him. So really do have to watch out for your positioning when you try for that combination. Mid lane is actually going very even. Kuroko can't really push him out the lane because the regen from Devour. So he's going to be fine, he's got the Midas queued up, we'll see if he actually commits for it. Down bottom lane, CS is also very even, honestly a very even game so far. Kill score, CS. Yo blinking in here takes all the mana off GY, but I really don't think he cares. Maxing out the Moment of Courage, and we'll see if he can actually survive through here with the regen from the IO. He's actually running away, which personally I think is a mistake. I mean, now that you're in the trees, now the Vengeful Spirit is out of range, I would much rather see them turn around and go for this fight. And with little help from a couple of salves, they will be able to do that. We do have our Quaswax Invoker here. He's got an Arcane Rune, so no doubt he'll be using his Tornado before that expires. Or not, he's just going to sit back here. Thinking that purging off Ogre Frost armor could be nice. And even if Kuroko instantly recasts it, that's just a bit of mana gone. Oh, they have pulled out the Leshrac, and once again, interrupting the stun. Bryant really not having a good time when it comes to landing these split earths. Vengeful Spirit TPing into that mid lane. Ogre Frost Mage armor coming in handy though, Kuroko will survive. And our offlane Leshrac did have a couple of early kills, but since then, just without the setup of the Sven stun, he's really finding it difficult to land. And first couple of levels, the AoE is quite small, so I don't really blame him. At some point, when you get the level 10 talent, radius damage, radius talent as well, then you can be expected to land it unless the enemy is able to blink out. But for now, he's struggling. I do like the ancient stacks here from Void. Got a Sven, he can take them very efficiently, especially because he has the IO to heal him throughout all of this. Pretty big camp here being contested, and this time the Rubik is not there to interrupt the split earth. DMG gonna be taken down. Very straightforward kill there, but a lot of the CS from that hard camp does go the way of the Viper, so it's not a complete loss for them. Down bottom lane, Anti-Mage. Now that GY seems to have found his footing. Top lane Sven gonna get taken extremely low, but the salve will help him survive. They go for the dive onto the Rubik, and they are able to get that kill. But our AM seems he's finally getting out traded by 3 points into the Moment of Courage. Vengeful Spirit once again mid. So it's no surprise that the AM is struggling. Tornado for the setup. Kuroko never had much mana to work with. He does get the Frost Armor out in time, he does get the Scorched Earth out in time, IO TPing on, and Kuroko actually stopping for the attack onto the courier. That's a bit unfortunate. He will die. Ray gets a nice little D ward, and this is a lot of attention on this mid lane trying to take down the Doom, so it's not terrible. Interestingly enough, both K as well as Bryant going back to the base at the same time, and I can tell you that's pretty suboptimal because it means that for a long time no one's taking EXP in this lane. But they are going to be bringing in Bryant down into the bottom lane. Can they use this as a setup? Because the TP is coming in from the Invoker. This could be pretty big. Who is baiting who here? They come around. GY doesn't have that much mana, but he does get off his heal in time. Will that be enough for him to survive? Well, apparently not, but they do trade back for the AM. Bryant coming in at a nice timing. And in fact, they're able to turn around with Cade stun into stun. We've seen this combination time and again. Invoker has the Invoke, but doesn't have mana for Ghostwalk. It's a very costly spell. But Sven won't be able to chase on forward. But that's still worth it, I think, because you kill the Anti-Mage. Your Sven's still continuing to farm. Anti-Mage actually bottom of net worth out of all the cores. Zoning EMP here. Invoker very low on mana. Well, practically no mana, so he has no abilities, can't even use the Cold Snap. Very easy kill onto him. Ray in the trees is going to be scouting out the Vengeful Spirit, but no way to stop the TP. Legion Commander went up top, does get taken down. So that's not great, but with the God's Strength, they should be able to take down this tower. Even using the Glyph aggressively. Clearing out the creep wave with just a couple of last hits. Just a couple of auto attacks. While Bryant actually soaking EXP mid. Interesting that he's going for the Boots of Travel. It's a very greedy build. And not typically what we see out of support Leshrac, so it looks like he's trying to scale into a 4. We'll see how that works out for him. Nice and early Mask of Madness here for our Sven. Does actually go for the Phase Boots once again. And I've been thinking about it. I think maybe it's for the IO to also get that bonus movement speed. Tier 1 tower does fall, and that gives Yo a lot of space where he can farm up. That's only if he has vision, however. If he doesn't have vision, he does have to be careful. No relocate just yet. And they're actually trying to bait with the Anti-Mage here. It seems Anti-Mage staying in this lane, Invoker wrapping around as the Tornado for the setup. Lift, making sure that GY has no mana. That's going to be a lot of damage from the Mana Void. And that will be able to get the finish there. So Legion Commander dying a couple of times. Now she's bottom of net worth, but this entire time our Sven is farming. He's got the out to him. He now does have relocate available. That's really going to set things up for the Legion Commander with the duel. Now the ping's coming out. A fairly sizable stack here. If they can take that successfully, that's going to be a solid 1k net worth for our Sven from Triple Ancient stack. And they can easily get another stack here. Up top lane, Kuroko does not have mana for the Doom. But because he doesn't have mana, he's able to pressure the AM because the AM just does no damage to him. IO going to be making one more stack here. But Execration, they're grouping up, they're going for this tower. They don't really have the best heroes when it comes to pushing. Atos going to be catching out GY, but he purges off immediately. No swap there for our Vengeful Spirit. And they do have to tank this tower to make sure they keep their catapult. And the catapult is going to be most of their push. As I was saying, they don't have the best tools for taking towers. Even using the Glyph aggressively, that will allow the creeps to come in and tank that one. And tier 1 tower, obviously the mid lane is particularly valuable. They're going to be denying it though. Swap does catch out GY this time. Sven has already used the God Strength, doesn't have that much duration left on it. Do they really want to go for this kill? RR is a pretty easy target since he just swapped himself in. But that's still a decent trade here for Execration. Of course, the big story for the Void was that they cleared out that quadruple stack. Not too sure what Bryant was doing there. A very greedy way to look for vision, I think. But K, losing your mid-tier 1, fine. It even got denied. and he is well ahead of the anti-mage in net worth. If they fight against each other, even 1 versus 1, it's not going to be close. And that's all the more so when you have the IO tethered. We haven't seen a single Doom just yet. Kuroko, unsurprisingly, really having mana problems on this hero. He's playing against the anti-mage as well as a Quaswex Invoker. Big smoke up here. DMG with that Aethos, they're looking for some pickoffs. Now ideally they want to be killing this Fen, but that's a bit of a tall order. Gonna need to be able to interrupt that relocate. Not gonna be finding anyone in the jungle just yet. They do have a rough idea of where Bryant is, however. But he's not that valuable of a kill, frankly. And I do think going for the IO, despite him being the, I guess, position 5, for the IO to get up and farm, get an early mech, it really does scale with items and farm. Whereas the Leshrac, I think, is just mostly there to kill towers very quickly and land follow-up stuns if he's able to get a first. And well, look at this. Bryant, oh, no, he's gonna survive. Anti-mage taking too much damage from the tower. The glyph was enough to push him away. So AM low HP, he's really thinking about going in, but Bryant, he doesn't have that much mana used just yet. Finally, Yo will be able to get the mana void off. But that's only after the Leshrac was able to use the Pulse Nova for a very long time. And that's just the support for support. And meanwhile, Void, because they have the relocate, they can threaten for this fight anytime. It looks like a terrible situation, only having one hero to defend, but if he finds a duel, that's such an easy relocate setup. He's very poor, admittedly. Does not have the Blink Dagger. And that is the main thing that they're waiting for. Maybe a Blink Dagger on our Doom as well, which would allow him to get in, get the Doom onto the Invoker, without having all of his mana burnt beforehand. Invoker gonna be going for the Orchid. Of course, as the Doom, you have to be very careful about not giving the Doom away to the Rubik. And there are quite some nice spell steals this game. I think the Doom is probably the highest value spell steal, but all of the Leshrac spells are also pretty good. Battle Fury coming online from our Anti-Mage, that's a poor timing, but if you look at the relative net worth, he is so far behind the Sven. Sven has 50% more net worth here. Once he gets that BKB, they don't have the best tools to control him. Viper Strike, I suppose, to slow him down. The Vengeful Spirit Swap, not really going to be used on him, but will allow them to kite him around somewhat. But they can't actually stop him in his tracks. They can't actually stun him for good through a BKB. Legion Commander still working on that blink, flying out to her. We might be seeing our first relocate play in just a second. Of course, ideally, they want to be getting the Anti-Mage. And our AM after this, he's going to be blinking somewhere. Where is that blink going to be? Blink forward from our LC. That's a dual setup, even dooming the AM here. They just want to make sure. They won't be able to get the dual kill, but they get a bonus Vengeful Spirit. A Void that is quite costly. They used all of their cooldowns for that, even the God Strength. But a kill onto the Anti-Mage is just so valuable. Again, it's all about that relative net worth compared to the Sven. And AM, until you get 3 items, until you get Battle Fury, Mantle, and Basher, there is no way you can even think about joining a straight up team fight unless you're cleaning up a very good situation. And it does feel like Void, simply with their draft, have set themselves up with more playmaking options. The best catch that Execration have right now is the Viper with an Aethos, or maybe the Invoker with a Tornado. Bryant actually going to get solo killed here by BDZ. BDZ, he loves those spell steals from the Leshrac. And honestly, it's been a very underwhelming game here for Lesh. He's died a bunch of times, he's got Boots of Travel, but he's not a core. And he's playing the game in a very bizarre way. He's playing very suicidal. Often, he's the one fishing for kills, and often when it backfires on him. And, well, now that they have the Blink Dagger on the Legion Commander, the game does change somewhat. They do see someone in the mid lane that got Relocate ready, but they don't have the God Strap. So just waiting on that, perhaps. But for K, having that BKB, that's 10 seconds of pretty much unlimited power. Bryant again showing in that top lane. We've seen this one before. He dies, but bringing in the Legion Commander, that's pretty big. It's going to be the bait here. Got the Relocate, but got the God Strength. And so far, they haven't been able to finish off Bryant. Relocate coming in right on top of our Invoker. Bryant, he is going to get taken down. They will get the duel, however, and Sven with BKB through this arm. Got rid of, and well, our free hits take him down. DMG getting out of there is pretty nice. The Relocate coming back in, right on top of the Anti-Mage. Execration, I think, considering going for the big play with the Relocate return, but how do you deal with Sven with God Strength? Even if you can kill the IO, the Sven's going to be chopping you down. There's just so much damage coming out from him at this point in time. Held on to the Doom the entire fight as well. Once he gets his BKB, that's really going to help with the mana burn. And that does seem to be his main issue, just the mana burn and then getting kited around by the Viper. As for our Legion Commander, working on the Blade Mail, Bryant being cheeky here, going for the tower with the Diabolic Edict. And yo, can you really go for this kill? There's an LC right next door. They don't have the Relocate, so do they have the follow-up damage? Actually stacking the stuns here, so they think they can take down Yo with the damage, and that was a bit optimistic. That might have been a kill if they had timed out the stun immediately after the duel and just used as many right clicks as possible. Because they weren't able to do so, again, when they go for kills and it backfires, it's usually Bryant dying. Not a fan of this support Leshrac, not a fan of the way he's been playing it. But that doesn't seem to matter if K is able to farm up and he's going for the Basher. I quite like this item choice because it gives them that extra kill potential onto the Anti-Mage. It's quite hard to lock him down with the Sven stun. But that Basher, just that, it's not even that long of a stun, but against an Anti-Mage, it's so precious. Take off a second of its time. Bit of a net worth lead here for Void. Most of that is just stemming from the difference in the cores. If you look at the position 1 and position 2, very big net worth difference there. Supports, on the other hand, you know, the position 3 that's looking quite even. But Kuroko, this entire time, he's had the Midas ticking, he's had the Devour ticking, and of course Sven is just Sven. Scanning out Roshan here, they're afraid of that being taken. And if the Sven uses the God Strength, he can kill Rosh extremely fast. They even have a couple of attack speed buffs. Legion Commander with a maxed out heal, that gives a lot of attack speed. Alright, gonna be grouping up here. Lift onto the Leshrac. Once again, in a bit of a vulnerable position, he gets swapped, but now they've got the duel, they've got the Doom out onto the Invoker. Invoker taken out of the fight immediately, and Leshrac, well, he's surviving through all of it. And guess what, K with this Relocate, they're gonna head right into the pit. Ray gonna be breaking that tether, gonna be leaving him there. And again, with the attack speed buff coming out, they will be able to take this down in a matter of seconds. And, well, I totally thought Brian was gonna die there. And that would have been fine, honestly, if he died for the setup for his team. Legion Commander, not getting that many dual wins, only 20 dual damage. But that's fine because your team is quite consistently winning these fights, and the raw might of the Sven, all the more so now that he has the full Abyssal Blade as well as the Aegis. He's just such a big threat to anyone, and the Anti-Mage, who is the late game carry here for Execration, I don't think is ever going to be the man fight against Sven. Well, speaking of said Sven, he's getting stunned up, does have the BKB without the God Strength. He's not looking to fight. Io not with him, actually. Io also getting caught out. He's going to get blinked on. That is the dead Wisp. And that does perhaps give them a chance to go for K on the high ground. Yo, really going deep here. 17 seconds until we have the God Strength back up. Void, they'll be able to survive until then. They'll be able to hold on to the Aegis. A very ballsy play, frankly, from Execration. But it does seem to have worked out. Getting the IO, that's pretty big, because the IO effectively negates the Legion Commander as well. But with the IO respawning in a couple of seconds, with the God Strength back up, can hunt for some kills. You see the Anti-Mage. Anti-Mage forced to blink up in the trees. Or not actually, he's getting greedy it seems. Oh, this is so big. If they see him with the God Strength, he will die so quickly. They have the Abyssal Blade follow-up as well. Blink Dagger on our Rubik to go with his Aetherlin, so his initiation range is very significant. Doesn't have a spell on him at the moment, and Kuroko I think has been doing a good job of not letting that tune be stolen. Boy, definitely looking for something here. Got another 3 minutes left on this Aegis. What can they do with it? Spell stolen is the Devour, that's not terrible. It does take a while for it to kick in. Things coming forward, GUI. Smoke gonna get broken. Links right onto the Vengeful Spirit. Where is our relocate? It's coming in very deep here. Bryant once again will be focused, but yo, he gets caught by the Abyssal Blade. He can't get his spell shield off in time. And the Chain Stun, it's just perfect. Great positioning there on the relocate, catching the backline, catching the AM as he retreated. And the AM just not aware of that at all. It's very hard to watch for all of the angles. He gets caught by the Abyssal Blade. Still have some time left on the Sven God Strength as well. Going to be chopping down this tower extremely quickly. Liv comes out, that does help. But the Sven, he can tank this quite easily. Gives his entire team bonus armor. And once that Diabolic Edict comes back off cooldown, this tower is going to fall, as is the full lane of Frax. The question is, what else can they get from here? Someone actually on the Invoker, he has to be so careful. If they have Detection, they're still holding on to the Doom. Void actually not going for the Rax. I definitely think they could have tried to push the tier, the ranged Rax, because it doesn't regen, and they know that there's no glyph. Orchid coming out here, lift, and the swap going to be putting him onto the low ground. Kuroko uses his BKB, does have the Doom. Who does he want to use it on? Has to be careful of that spell seal. They get the duel on to the Vengeful Spirit, however, that's one of the disadvantages of the swap. 4-staff forward, DMG has cliffed himself. Still with the Doom available here, DMG DPing out. Just ends with Void picking up another kill. Now they don't have too much time left with this Aegis, so I don't know if they can go for another head-on push. But that's still fine, that still increased their network advantage, and the AM still trailing the Sven. Honestly, even the Invoker, he's not doing so hot. He went for the Orchid instead of going for the more greedy route of the Midas, and that means that he's not only under-farmed, he's also under-leveled. BDZ's level 14, someone only level 15, compared to the Doom who's level 20, and does have the talent, which makes that Doom super deadly. For the moment, Void very much in control of this game, and I think a lot of it just goes back to the position 1 versus position 1. It's so hard for the anti-mages to sit there and man fight against the Sven. And this is a Sven pick that, well, was shown before the anti-mage, and they knew that they'd be playing against this sort of style. And one of the greatest strengths of the anti-mage is because you split push and you're so hard to kill, then you force the enemy into bad positions, but the enemy has an IO. They first picked the IO. And this anti-mage draft, it just... well, I don't know if it's ever going to come online. Now, as the AM, you do sort of hit that free item power spike. Okay, fine. But how many items does our Sven have? He's got the full AC. He's hitting so hard, he's hitting so fast, and he's so darn tanky. AC giving him this bonus armor, Warcry giving him this bonus armor. I just don't see the solution here. Am I missing anything? He's gonna get picked off. Oh no, the Doom onto him as well. And our Rubik, I mean, he's going to be able to TP out. No, the duel catches him. That's going to be more duel damage giving out to the LC. No, it's not like our LC has been snowballing at that front. It's only 20 duel damage. That's only actually 3 duels won. That's not too crazy there, but I mean, losing the Invoker like that, just completely getting Colts out during nighttime, didn't have the vision. Abyssal Blade range is 600, nighttime vision is 800. Just not preparing that whatsoever. Now, Kuroko going in. Does get the stun out with the Aghanim Scepter, but can't get the kill. But that's all fine. Kuroko, his main job there was to zone out. The enemy does get swapped, and he's definitely going to be dying here. That's a bit miscalculated from him. Of course, the Vengeful Spirit is swapped, even having another charge of it. So definitely would have been better off just walking out. If absolutely needed, the eye could have just tethered to him as well. Anti-Mage trying to go for some revenge onto the Legion Commander, but I do not know about this one. I really do not know about this one, actually. When he gets the Mana Void, still surviving on the LC. I was thinking the Relocate could come in, but Void, without their Doom, they say, no need to take a risk, we know we're ahead, we're just able to take a lane of Rax. What are you going to do about it? There's the exposed Rax up top as well. And the bottom lane of Rax is definitely the most important Rax because that's the opposite side of Roche. So constantly, you have the Boots of Travel Leshrac, you have the Relocate threat, you have to protect your base. And if that means a free Aegis and Cheese for the team with the Sven Io, then yeah, yes, please. Both outposts here for the Radiant means that Void won't be getting too much bonus EXP, but they're so far ahead. I mean, look at the EXP graph. 20,000 EXP in their favor. Net worth, likewise, it's just a straight drop there. And Execration, I don't want to count them out just yet, but down 20k net worth, 29 minutes into the game. That's pretty bad. It's not quite GG. That's pretty bad. And it really does feel like our Invoker is struggling in these fights. He constantly gets doomed. He constantly gets Abyssal plated, and I'm not saying he's playing badly, but Void are just constantly gunning for him. And that's made possible because they know that the AM is not that big of a threat, not for their Sven at least. But trying to go for the D word, of course that's going to get punished. That wasn't even close, frankly. And the dual damage given away, I don't think it actually matters this game. Plus 80 damage, yes, that's significant. But that doesn't mean he can get solo kills. He's always going to be relying on his team, be it with a Relocate, be it with the Leshrax damage, but that's also fine. That was exactly why they picked him as one of the few heroes who can control an anti-mage reliably. Now Yo, he's trying to play the split push game, and he's not doing a terrible job of it. But that's only going to work as long as Void are sitting back, and what they're doing right now is waiting for Roshan, and I think that's fine. It should be a very easy Aegis and Cheese. Kind of hard to start a fight with Relocate. I think you do need the LC here. But with more items just pouring in from our Sven, he's got the Daedalus. And he crits for 761 before he turns on his ult. That's just ridiculous. I don't see how our anti-mage is ever going to defeat him. They have to kill everyone around him and then deal with him last. Going forward with the dual tornado, pretty good disengage there. So that does mean that the Vengeful Spirit survives long enough to not give dual damage over, but how are you really going to go in and make a play out of that? The anti-mage, he just can't afford to make a move. All he can do is split push, and now Roshan has respawn. And the Doom, second in net worth, still ahead of the anti-mage. He's far tankier now with the Shiva's Guard. He's got the BKB as well. He is close to getting slotted, which is not great. But if you're not killing him and he's still alive, the constant Inferno Blade being casted with the Active Scepter is just so much damage, it's so much stun. 50% uptime on a stun, that's absolutely ridiculous. They do hand the cheese over to the IO. They're looking for a setup here. Kuroko comes in with that Shiva's Guard. It's going to be spotting out the enemy. Nice horse staff away though, DMG will be able to survive, and Rubik blinked out earlier too. But now they're forced into a bit of a desperate position. Relocate, trying to catch someone out, that's not going to work. Stealing the Warcry is not a terrible spell, but there's just better spells to be stolen here. And onto high ground we go, God Strength being popped. They are kiting him around for now. He's not actually getting onto a tower. Does have to watch out for the swap, but no, he goes in under the tier 4 towers. He does not care. Still has the Aegis, still has the BKB. Is going to get swapped very deep here, but that's the cue for Kuroko to go in. That's the cue for the duel to come out, and the Sven getting the cleave off the creeps. It's so easy to kill Viper. And that wasn't even close. They do force out a couple of BKBs, importantly the Sven's, but also that of GY as well as Bryant, who actually rushed the BKB as his first real item. All he has is mobility items, and then straight BKB. I mean, I've been saying this entire time I'm not a believer in what he's been doing, but it's working out pretty well. Kuroko goes in with his BKB now, and such a long stun on the anti-mage. Kuroko does get bashed up, but he's so tanky, he gets the Doom off. Spell Steal from the Rubik is available in just a second. He's actually not stealing the Doom. They will be able to survive on their Invoker as well, even with that DPS talent. That's a bit of a blunder there from Void. The rest of the team bailing out. Probably Doom was left behind. I think he just sat there and pulled it, honestly.
Subscribe lang po mga lods para more videos po.
And now all you have is 3 range tracks, 1 melee racks.
Game po tayo mamaya, game 2. Cut lang po natin yung video tapos balik tayo mamaya po for game 2 ng Void versus Execration Artisan League. Salamat.
He blinks in right in range. The Shadow Blade setup, they get the perfect chain stun, the duel, the swap. I mean, what can it do? The Svenny deals so much damage. And using the Shadow Blade there, using the Glimmer Cape, the timing was perfect. Now aggressive relocate to pick off more kills, not actually going to find anyone there just yet. Invoker up top will be able to hide in the Ghost Walk, but they do get a pretty nice freebie there with Rubik. And Anti-Mage dead with no buyback, or Rubik pulled back earlier, so his death timer is massive as well. And Void, they're already in such a good position. We're going to have the creeps streaming into that bottom lane. We're going to have them in the mid lane as well. All they have to do is clear out the top lane of Brax, and that's going to be Megas. Void, it's been a very long path to victory, but they maintained in control the entire time, looking at net worth, looking at EXP. This was their game to lose, and they didn't really make any big mistakes. They've lost their Doom a couple of times, but you know, it's not the full team wipe. They were never giving the playmaking power back to Execration. And at the end of the day, it really feels like Execration's draft just didn't have the tools to take the fight to Void. They had no initiator. The Anti-Mage could never beat the Sven. They're down 10k net worth. Frankly, there's not that many heroes that can win against the Sven.
when they're down 10k network. Got a bit of time left on the Aegis, but they don't have to use it. They were able to get Megas. If they can stick around, get a couple of kills. Lift comes out here, Sven, under the tier 4 towers. He does have the IO there to save him, and he's got the Aegis anyway, so he's just gonna opt to die. Now he's got the God Strength, now he's got the BKB. Duel comes out here onto the M. He gets Doom as well. This time the Doom will be stolen. Anti-Mage 4 staff will help him get into the fountain. He's gonna survive. But already they've lost 2 heroes, and the Sven, even with the stolen Doom on him, he actually does not care. The only active that he has that matters is the Abyssal Blade, but we are going to try and go in. Anti-Mage does hurt somewhat, but somewhat is not enough. This Sven is so darn tanky. The IO is healing him the entire time, and that's going to be it, folks. That's CG. We're diving into the fountain. We're not done yet, though. BDC, he doesn't have to go set there. He's going to get taken down. And K, he finally dies, but Void looking very dominating here. I do think a large part of it was the draft.
Salamat po mga Lods, balik pa tayo mamaya game 2.
And I think
Salamat
for
po.
Execration,
Standby lang po kaya. Salamat.
it's just that as it happened, Void were able to take a clean win. I think in the ultimate late game they would have outscaled the enemy anyway.